Hey,
Hey,
Maryssa.
how you doing? Are we live?
Yeah, we're live.
Cool. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
Um, Thanks for doing this.
Of course. You know, we go way back, so back to
Yeah,
the very beginning.
one of my first clients.
Yeah, definitely. You and your dad.
Yeah. So, for anybody that doesn't know, Maryssa is the CEO and founder of TravelTrunk, which is a platform that allows people to book and plan a trip as a group,
Yeah,
which I think a lot of people can identify with the pain point of like, all right, we want to go on a trip. Um, you pay for the flight, you pay for the room, you pay for the car, and then when it comes time to like who owes what, everyone's like, oh shit, we don't know. And then you have to have those like awkward conversations of like who didn't pay who and all of this. So like I just to kind of kick off, like how did you even identify that pain point in the first place?
of course. Well, before we begin, thanks for having me again. We, like I said, go way back, so I'm really excited to do this live with you. But this was a problem that I faced myself. I wanted to celebrate graduation in Vegas. I was a senior in college. Shout out St. John's University, and I started doing the planning. Talking to my friends, they were super excited. Down to go. Then once it came down to paying, people said, "Yeah, go ahead and pay it, and I'll pay you back." But of course, that didn't happen. So I lost thousands of dollars. People didn't go on the trip. We ended up not speaking anymore, but like hindsight, I realized that that was actually my very first investment into Travel Trunk because at that moment, I was locked in. I was like, there has to be a better way. And from that moment, like on the plane ride back, I started thinking about it.
So you actually lost friends over this problem.
I don't like to say that. I mean, we don't talk anymore, but I don't want to take anything negative away from the
Fair.
experience. Yeah.
Fair enough. But yeah, it was enough to kind of, and I definitely look at like my soiree into bubble development and just, entrepreneurship in general as the same thing. Like I hired a team of developers that I really, they gave me something that I'd never be able to use. And I spent like 15 to 20 grand on that. But I look at it the same way. So it's not to, be racked with regret. It's kind of
Yeah.
like that was my first real learning experience. Like that hurt.
So
And,
you
and
paid bubble developers?
no. This was
Oh, it was
before.
actual code.
Yeah, it was after I found Bubble, but I started in Bubble kind of early in like 2017, and I couldn't figure out just how to use it at the time because there just wasn't as many resources.
Yeah.
So I hired a team of traditional developers to build the app for me, and like I say, it was something that it was coded in Ruby, so it was nothing that I could like modify or use or anything like that. But it was a learning experience. Kind of to your point, it's like you could choose to look at it like, oh, it's a negative, or you could say like, all right, I really did take away a lot from that experience. That's really what gave me the motivation to go back to Bubble and say, all right, I really need to start taking this seriously and be in control over, what I'm building.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm
Well,
sure you've gone through that same kind of, learning cycle as most of us have.
yeah, for sure. So I spent over $60,000 hiring overseas developers. Probably had maybe 7 different prototypes that I couldn't even use because every time I needed to add a new feature or something like that, or something was wrong, I had to pay more. So I just killed it, started over, and each time it was the same problem. And to your point, based on your experience, mine was kind of similar. So I heard about Bubble, played around or walked around through it, and then decided, I don't have the time to learn, or this is probably another Wix or Weebly, something that's not going to be powerful enough for me to use. So I went back to the traditional developers, hiring them, but it took me a couple more smacks in the face to realize, no, you need to use Bubble.
Yeah. At least, or whatever platform you use, just the fact that like you're in control of it. I think it's, and it's funny because I still freelance, and do agency work, but I encourage the clients that I work with, you should know Bubble too. You shouldn't be relying on me to build everything for you, because then I have total control of you over how your app is built, and you don't want that.
Yeah, I tell people the same thing because, like you said, you don't have control over the product. And any founder should have control over their main source of income, um, whether it's tech or a physical product. Like you should have some sort of control over that. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's tell people that. A lot of freelancers don't tell people that.
Well, there's an obvious conflict of interest there,
Yeah,
but it's to me it makes me more stressed out, because if I'm, like, I don't want to have to know every time you want to change the copy on your landing page. Like, I don't need to know that. You should be able to do that yourself. I'll spend an hour with you showing you how to do that, but don't ask me to do this again. You should be using me better than this.
yeah, yeah. No, I totally get it. But
So
also, it's good to be able to communicate with the developer when you want something specific so that you don't have to go back and forth and, like you said, ask for copy. Like that's something you should be able to do.
So you've kind of gone into, I think you've worked with a few agencies and freelancers, it sounds like, over your core, and you've been at this for a while. You've been at this since 2013, I want to say.
Well, the business overall, Travel Trunk, yes, but on Bubble, maybe 2018.
Got you.
Yeah,
And you've cycled through a few developers, and I know now you actually, like, Bubble yourself. You were in the Immerse program, I think you were the winner of that particular cohort, which is
yeah,
awesome. And now you have your own team, right? So you have people that are actually working full time for TravelTrunk.
yeah. And all on Bubble. So it started with, just me. And like you said, I hired a few people, like agencies and freelancers to help me. But it was always a collaborative thing. When I got stuck, that's when I really brought in a freelancer. But since Immerse, I have found, people that were in the audience or watched on YouTube reached out to me and wanted to work with me on the project because they figured, they've had the same experiences and this is something that they too have felt the pain of and wanted to, sort of bring what they know to help the business grow. So we've been just attracting people. And the more we do, like the more trips we get, the more interviews we're part of or articles we're written on, people hear about us and want to be on this journey with us, which is more than I can ask for because there's nothing like hiring someone um, that already comes with that passion, because it's more than a check for them. They want to be part of something bigger. They want to solve a problem. They yeah, they see something more than just a check every month, and that's what I look for. That's what I really appreciate.
How did you go about finding someone who was interested in what you were building and also had the skill set? That's a hard thing to really nail down, because somebody could be very technically savvy and not give two shits about your product, right? And
Yeah,
that's the hard thing, right?
yeah, and I think to my previous point, we I haven't gone out, and for the times that I did go out, I didn't find those people. They always found Travel Trunk, and that was the beauty of what is the team now.
Got you. So
Yeah.
the I think it sounds like the publicity that you got through the different things that you've done really attracted the people to say, oh, that's an app idea that I can get into.
Yeah, so not only publicity definitely, but also some of our users um, asked to join the team, and we brought some of them on to come on board because they love the product as well. They
That's
already tell people about it, so they just want to work for Travel Trunk. So yeah,
that's pretty sweet.
yeah,
Um, the so the like it seems like from our last conversation, it seemed like there was a lot of changes that you and kind of shifted your focus around from, we think this is the core group of people, or this is the venues that should be on our platform. versus, and now it seems that that's changed a little bit. Can you just kind of take me through, because I'm always interested to see like the character arc of an app, for lack of a
Yeah.
better word, but can you just like talk us through that and how you made those changes?
Yeah, so of course it started with me. I built what I wanted to use, and then someone from my group trip and you know used it for their group trip, and then it started branching out on its own. So then what I wanted wasn't necessarily what everyone else wanted, like certain features. So out of 54 group trips, I didn't have a plan, right? I didn't have a plan for any of these trips. I literally just sat in the group, in each group, to understand what were the pain points, what were the common pain points in all of them, and then started building based off of that.
When you say set in the groups, you mean the groups of people that were actually booking trips on the app?
Yeah, so 54 different groups. I kind of just sat in and didn't suggest, I mean, I did suggest, I did, advise, and but I was really taking in what it was like to be in all of these different groups.
Mm.
So what were the concerns, what were the questions? I was more open and curious in these groups, as opposed to telling them this is what Travel Trunk does. So then I found a lot of the common pain points in all of those, and started building based off of that.
Yeah, that seems to be the common denominator of the people who get traction on their software or app idea,
Yeah.
is they've really immersed themselves in what their users are going through, or their target audience is going through. When I talked to Jonathan Timianco, he said the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Like he didn't have the problem that he was trying to solve, so he really needed to go the extra mile to understand the complexities around boat rentals. Do you know who Jonathan is?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
He also was one of the people that helped me when I got stuck. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah. We're a tight knit group. I think we all like to help each other. And yeah, but like that always amazes it. But like him, you, Neil, Shalicia, who's someone that I've had on too, they all really put themselves in the place of the person that has the problem. And you point out something interesting here too, where it's like you have even if you do have the problem, you're thinking about it in such a narrow way based on your own experience that it's really hard to build a feature set around that other people will relate to. I've done it. I've made this mistake
Yeah.
where like you think you know more than you really do, and it kind of gets you down not the wrong path, but you think you spend a lot of time building features that no one really cares about.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you also spend a lot of money trying to push that market that, and people don't care about it. I think the best form of marketing, of course, everyone knows, is like word of mouth. Um, so when you see, but also, for instance, I used to be in the group chats, like on the text messages in the group chats of the different groups, and then people wouldn't know each other, so they would be kind of like weirded out with sharing their numbers with a group of strangers. So when we added the messaging feature into the app, people were texting me on the side saying thank you. So it were things like that where if I didn't sit in it and understand, of course, I mean, group chat's easy, messaging is easy to understand that people might want it in an app, but there are certain features where if I didn't just listen and like turn off what I think people want, I would have never built it. I would have never, and it amazes me at at when we come up with new features like, wow, this is really cool. Like I would definitely use this. But I didn't think of it.
Yeah.
It came from the inspiration of the pain points of the group. So
Yeah, it's so funny about how it seems so obvious after they've like given you that insight, but it's so hard to get there just on your own.
yeah.
Um, Tell me a little bit about Immerse, the Immerse program, and how that got you how that, well, not got you, because I don't want to say, I'm sure you did a lot for that too, but the funding, like how did you go about like the whole experience there is something I've never been through an accelerator program, and I've never gotten funding for anything that I was working on. So that whole process is alien to me. Can you take me through that a little?
Yeah, for sure. So, Immerse, I of course was on Bubble for a while before I received the email about Immerse. When I got the email, I said, "Hey, I mean, what are my chances? I mean, I'm already building. Why not?" So then I applied, and I think I got rejected. I did get rejected, but they were doing like a second part, like the original or the official cohort was. Um, they picked their residents, but then they wanted to have like a what do you I don't know, like a subdivision, just so that our group can test out features that they didn't want to apply to the official cohort. So we were like the guinea pigs for new features for the whole program. Um,
Gotcha.
But then throughout the program, they realized my product was actually functioning, and we were generating revenue, booking sales, and it was actually working. And it was pretty far built, more than the ones in the official cohort and the one in the subdivision that I was in. So they kind of like brought me into the official cohort maybe like a week or two before finals, or what, the demo day. Then I made it to demo day, pitched. I won, but I didn't really win anything. Like nothing came out of that, but the connection to Merlene. She was one of the judges. So I reached out to her via Twitter just to keep in contact. Then she brought me and introduced me to her network, and she and her network eventually invested in TravelTrunk. So last year we raised some money with her and her network, and it's carried us throughout the year to the point where we feel like we can do another round with a higher valuation and for a lot more, which is
Wow.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it has to, like you would have never gotten that connection had you not gone through the Immerse program. So it shows you, even though like that there wasn't a direct payoff from the program itself, it opened up a door. And well, like, how could you have predicted that? You know?
Exactly. And more than anything, the connection. It's one of my advisors is her really good friend. We talk every 2 weeks. We're on a call, and he's introducing me to VCs and things like that. So it, I didn't win anything like the prize for Immerse, but I got so much more. And this is what I say, you know, sometimes you can go out looking for what you think you want, but if you just go out there with an open mind, better is gonna come your way.
Yeah. I think the hardest thing is the expectations that you come in with, because
Yeah.
when you don't meet those, like the first 6 months of doing anything like full time that wasn't in like a paycheck from an employer was
Yeah.
just so mind blowing for me, because I went in with so many expectations. And even though I thought I was reading the right stuff, and you know, getting my head in the space of working for myself, there was still so much. Those first 6 months are just so like, this isn't what's supposed to be happening. And that's the problem right there. It's like, no, there's no there's no roadmap for this. You're just gonna stumble through it until, like, some doors start opening up. And that usually takes longer than a year or two to happen, right? Like, the timeline is just so not what you expect it to be.
Yeah, and if you knew what the timeline was, you probably wouldn't get into it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
um it's so I think it's also like very glamorized, like working for yourself. Like, there's a lot of movies and like all of the stuff, like articles and things that you see online. It's like working for yourself, there's a lot of down to it. I would say that there's, yes, you do have the autonomy to like figure out who you're going to work with. There's really no one telling you what or what not to do, but it's all on you. It's all on you. The buck stops with you, and there's no one, like, you have to seek out mentorship and help and people that, have your best interest in mind. And that is just like not a skill that anybody teaches you, and how difficult that can be.
Yeah. I say there are a lot of free mentors. I mean, not free, but a lot of mentors out there available to me. I like reading biographies and memoirs. I learn a lot from what other entrepreneurs go through and take away things that I feel I could apply to Travel Trunk. So I may not be able to reach, what's his name, Ed McCullen, like the founder of Pixar, but reading his biography helped me so much. It helped me with hiring because it's really what the book is about. So the way he goes about running Pixar and how he hired his first employees really, really helped me in this stage.
What are some of the, because you're growing, and I think traffic must be a concern for you. Like we all, like all of us here in the no code space, whether it's Bubble or Dala or Zano, I'm recently getting into. We all have these concerns around the upper limits of what these platforms can do, and I think that's at the forefront of everyone's mind, in one way or another. Now, do you have any concerns about traffic or the like when the opportunities do come, like can Bubble hold up their end of the deal and what they promised me?
Yeah. Yes, of course. At the last meetup that we were at, I asked Emmanuel about that. That was literally my only question for everyone. Um, no one really had a straightforward answer, but I think it's something that we continue to explore, like people on our team. We continue to explore and find different avenues, but based on the response that we're getting from other developers and Emmanuel, it is possible to scale. We just have to build it right, of course. Make sure the app isn't too heavy. Um, but yeah, I think it is possible. How about
Yeah,
you?
yeah. I mean, for me, I've never met an obstacle that I couldn't overcome with one solution or another.
Mhm.
And that's the key there. The problem, the inherent thing that keeps me up is what something you just said. It's the right way to build it. No
Yeah.
one knows the answer to that question, right? So if no one knows, who's to
Yeah.
say what's possible and what isn't? It's kind of just like you got to figure that shit out. It's on you. It's
Yeah.
on you to figure it out. Whatever your use case is, everyone's going to be different. My problem right now that I'm coming into, I've kind of hit a wall with using the core Bubble database is the amount of data that I'm processing, right? So I'm uploading real estate data from all over the country, and one county is like 200,000 property records.
What?
Yeah, so it's not that Bubble, I can get those records into Bubble, but it's difficult, right? I have to do all of these kind of workarounds and different things. And at some point, I was asking myself, is there an easier way to do this? That's not that can I use a different backend to this for this purpose? Because it's such a data heavy app, and that's why I'm exploring other back end options. I still want to use Bubble as the front end because that's really what I know, and Bubble is definitely my go-to. But I think each use case calls for something different. Your issue is probably going to be traffic related. It
Yeah.
doesn't sound like it's a ton of data that would be going through TravelTrunk. There's a lot of messaging. I'm sure that's going to go back and forth.
Yeah.
That'll add up.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, the feature's new and it's already over thousands. Yeah.
exactly. So that's going to add up. But I think that probably the more immediate performance concern for you is going to be like um, just straight traffic. Like just people downloading the app at a rate that's that is goes beyond the professional plan or the personal plan, whatever one.
Exactly. And that's what I bring up with the team all the time. Are we ready to scale? Are we ready? Are we ready? Of course, we have people that are just like, yeah, let's crash. It's exciting and all that. And I'm the total opposite. I was like, I do not want to crash. Are you kidding me? Um, but it's something that we can't let it stop us. We
Yeah.
can't let it stop us. We just have to do it, and then be ready to jump in where we need to fix things.
Like, what's worse, not trying because we were concerned about whether or not this will scale or not, or
Exactly.
like hitting the wall and saying, all right, we got to figure this out.
Exactly. Let's not crash.
We got Nicole from Bubble here. Great conversation, gentlemen. So agree that no one knows the answer to this question, including Bubble. Exactly. No one knows the answer until your use case hits an unknown wall. And, I think that's fair. I think that's such a fair answer for anybody because there's so many variables that we have to consider. And the way the app is built is very specific. The way that the database is set up, like there's so many different variables that could cause your app to not perform the way that you would expect it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like that burden that burden to
Yeah.
figure out the right way to build it or how not to crash your app is on us as the product owners,
Yeah.
which is scary. It's very scary.
I mean, I say this all the time. Bubble is built like you build with logic. There's no cookie cutter answer for anything that you build. We could be building the same product, but you go about it a totally different way because that's your logic and mine is different. So one person can find the answer, but I still don't think it'll solve everyone's problem. But we'll see. I'm sure we'll find a way. I'm sure Bubble will come up with a way.
Yeah. And that brings up kind of another topic of conversation of like trying to pick up where somebody left off. Like you said that you had 7 other developers over the lifetime of TravelTrunk that have been in the app applying their own set of logic to how to build this thing,
Yeah.
which in a lot of ways makes for a very complicated. So a developer going in after that being the 7th developer on that and looking at this and saying, "Oh my God, what's happening here?" It's not that any one of those was necessarily wrong. It's just like that's the information that they had at the time.
Yeah.
That's what I thought we needed, and that's what they did, and we're gonna have to undo this.
Yeah. The 7 developers though were not on Bubble, but the now if I bring someone on, there's at least one person who knows everything, the app from top down, so that when another person comes in to build, we can explain what the logic was behind this workflow or understand what they can do different and things like that. But going in without Bubble, I wouldn't have been able to kind of like have that, like you said, sense of control where if someone new comes in, I can explain this is why we did this, and if you change it, just let me know. But yeah.
Yeah, and that one when you say that one person that knows everything, that's you, right? Like you're the one that knows how the app works, and you can dish that information out as needed.
Yeah, me, and now it's my other CTO who knows everything. Yeah. From top down.
Gotcha. I was having a conversation at that meetup that we were at. I was at I was having a chat with a couple that came in that's building another real estate app. They're both in the real estate space. They didn't have any technical experience, but they were asking all the same questions. Did you meet
Yeah.
them?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are asking all the same questions that we're talking about now, and that I was asking when I first started down the path with Bubble and No Code and all that. And at some point, I'm just like, I promise you, I'm not a Bubble sales rep. And I didn't realize that I was sitting because I feel like I was advocating for it so much. But I was sitting right next to Jing, who's the VP of Finance, I believe it is. And she's
Okay.
like, I can vouch for him. He's not a Bubble salesperson. He's just been working on Bubble for a while. But they had the same questions, and that's what I think is interesting is that this conversation hasn't changed all that much from 5 years ago. We're
Yeah.
still asking the same questions. We're still trying to find what is that glass ceiling that we just can't get past. And I want to believe that it doesn't exist, of course, because I've invested so much of my time and livelihood as of you, like on the success of this platform. So, but when I think that when I was explaining that to them, the point I was trying to make, I lost my train of thought. But the point I was trying to make is that when I was explaining it to them, what is the more obvious way to go? Like, is it, do you like they were describing a very complicated app that would require an entire team of developers to build if you were going to do it the custom code way, traditional coding way, versus can you put something very simple out there, build something, whether even if it's not bubble, even if it's just kind of at this point, I would have even recommend to just put up a landing page that describes the problem that you're solving and see how people react to it. Um, why wouldn't you start there? And then if and when you need to go full custom code because you've hit some crazy wall that, whatever the case may be, why not decide that that's the point where you would be able to, go all out with a custom, custom coded application. Does that make sense? I know that was very long winded.
No. That makes perfect sense, and I think we all start that way. Um, for me, maybe it's because I was scared to put something that wasn't perfect out there. So I added all the bells and whistles, and then I realized I was just hurting myself trying to paint this perfect company when I could just humble myself, be where I am in the stage of the company and learn from it. And I think once I shifted my mindset and understood that, first of all, this is never going to be perfect. I could be 30 years in, it's never going to be perfect. And two, it's not about other people that here to criticize. It's here, I'm building this for the people who actually need the product. So let's focus on them. So it's always about, for me at least, it was about being afraid of putting something out there that wasn't perfect and being judged on it.
That is what I think 99% of the people's fears are. Mine too. Everyone that I really comes down to almost an insecurity of like, will people judge this? And you know who's going to judge it? Other
Yeah.
developers who don't use it. You know what I mean? It's like, you think your user cares what stack your app is built on? No, they want it to work, and they want it to be easy, and they don't want it to think that much when they use it.
Yeah.
But they're not looking in like, oh, this is not built in JavaScript, I'm not using this.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also, you don't hear about successful companies until they have like their version 35 where it looks perfect. So you don't really understand what took them, like what their journey was. But when you're actually in it, you understand and you actually read and listen to audiobooks or watch documentaries. That's when you understand, oh, it took them about 10 years to get here. I met them at 10 years old, but it was a long journey for them. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that reading is definitely helped me kind of like download information, but it's always retrospect. You're always reading someone's memoirs from like 10 years ago. It's
Yeah.
really hard to get back into that mindset of like, no, I started with this thought process and I learned this is where I'm at. This is the results. This is where I am now.
Yeah.
I think anyone, it's hard to do. Even when you go to the, where successful founders are, talking about their past experience, you miss so much by like them talking in retrospect. It's always I almost cannot not relate because I'm not. It's inspiring to see somebody, like, oh yeah, they made it, but it's also like, but this, like they'll say like, oh yeah, then we got 10,000 users. Wait a minute. Like that's
Yeah.
one sentence of what they're talking about. I'm like, wait a minute, but how much went into getting those 10,000 users? It's a whole story there. That's like years of messing up to get
Yeah.
to that point, you know?
And some of them don't share that. They don't share the failures too often. They focus on the successes, but good founders, good, legendary founders will share all of that because they just want to inspire and teach the next. So that's
Yeah.
where I get a lot of my inspiration from.
But yeah, definitely like being honest about what the road was like. It's not glamorous in most cases. I don't know. Maybe this, maybe there's some outliers that it was an overnight success, but it's never anyone that I've talked to or, you know, if they were being honest.
Exactly.
Um, I think that was the fun. Yeah, we chatted about everything on my list here. Anything else that you want to add around to, just as someone who has kind of done what we're all trying to do, gaining traction, getting paying users, getting funding, all that stuff. Anything that you would say to anyone who's like kind of on that grinding out to be on that path?
Yeah, so just to be clear, I'm still very, very small. We're not in the millions yet, but focus on the product. I think Bubble is like the best, not in the whole no code space, but if you're a founder, Bubble is the best tool out there for you to use and um, bootstrap with. You know, building a software product is not easy, especially if you don't know how to code. But Bubble makes it super easy and affordable. So take advantage of that. Take advantage of the network. Don't expect anything. Just focus on the product and your customers. But like you said in just a while ago, start with a landing page. Not only will that landing page teach you how workflows work, how data works, how the UI, the front end works, but it might be all you need to get at least one user and then go from there. Once you have that one user, you could get 5 users. So just baby steps. Don't try to rush through um, the steps that you need to kind of go through just to get to raising or getting paid users or hiring a team. Focus on where you are now. I would just say that.
Well said. Yeah, easy. It's very difficult for someone who's like a first time founder who's going through this for the first time for that really to sink in. I wouldn't have listened to you if this was the first
Really?
time. And I,
What would you have
well,
done?
say again.
What would you have done? Like, what would
Well,
be?
exactly what I did is my point. Like, I wouldn't have listened to you, because oh no, I need to build something and show it to people, and that's how I get users, right? No,
Yeah.
no, it's
Why do
not
you think
how.
that's the mindset?
I just think everyone starts with that mindset. I think everything. I think it's a. It's well. Why is a tricky question. Let me think about that for a second. But I think it's funny because I see people who even like product managers, right? Like people who should know better,
Hmm.
where they're just focused on product and engaging with users. Even when they have the capacity to build, like they found Bubble and they're starting to learn it and they're building, they even fall into the trap of build first, talk about it, and show people later. I think kind of almost now that you made me think about that. I think it just comes down to a bit of insecurity, right? You're not sure with what you're putting out there is good enough or how people will react to it. So you have to have a very pretty app with all of these features just to show it to people, just to see if it's a good idea. People may feel like a landing page is just not enough. It's not enough for me to get people interested in this because it doesn't do enough yet. I
Yeah,
think I think it's just fear. I think that is straight fear, and that fear costs you a lot of money.
a lot of money, and you're gonna have to go back anyway to redo a lot of those things.
Exactly. And you
Yeah,
realize you could have started with a landing page instead of paying those $20,000 to the developers that you hired.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I mean, if that's what I would tell people, but I feel like everyone has to just kind of go through it to understand why that's important and why that's true.
yeah,
Um, I just like I say, 5 years ago, I would have heard what I'm saying right now and been like, "That's stupid,"
yeah.
There's just no way around it.
Trying to think if I were in the position of when I started, would I do just a landing page? Yeah, I probably wouldn't just do a landing page either.
It feels like not enough. That's what it is. Because say you get 10 signups with that landing page, your first thought is not going to be, "Holy crap, I got 10 signups." It's going to be, "Damn, I don't have an app. I don't have anything." You
Yeah,
know, it's like, oh, now someone else is gonna. I put the idea out there. Here's another thing. I put the idea out there, and now 10 people know about it. They're going to go tell people, and then someone's going to steal this great idea that I had.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like.
And that's another thing, fear of people stealing your idea. So it's a lot of fear. A lot of
Yeah.
fear.
Nicole's got a comment here. Love the point that founders should prioritize progress in spite of the compelling need to be perfect. Yes, progress. I think that's the key word there. Like, are you showing any progress, right? Curious how Maryssa's communicating that lack of perfection to TravelTrunk users. Common question that comes up with the founders that I work with.
What the dialogue look like in the stage? Curious how Marissa's communicating. Uh, yeah. So this one was hard. Um, the traction really came from an influencer posting about Travel Trunk. So she came because someone referred her. So I created a trip for her and wasn't expecting her to post or do anything. I just created the trip. She went on her trip, loved her trip, and posted about it and tagged us. Just that tag um, in 24 hours got us 350 downloads. And
Jesus.
no, sorry, 350 in 24 hours, but so much more throughout. And people were asking us questions, and I was literally on my friend's couch. I didn't have a place to stay. I was just on her couch, and then my phone was going crazy. And I was just like, what is going on? Um, so then I tracked everything and realized she posted about us. So then I had to, I guess this was the moment. This is why I don't want to crash again, because it brings me back to that moment where I didn't have the answers, but people came to me with all these questions. And I did tons of Zoom calls. So everyone that asked us to build a trip, I would set up a Zoom call with them. Thankfully, Zoom was popular. People weren't annoyed with me asking them to Zoom. It was just starting the whole Zoom thing. So, um, yeah, I held a lot of Zoom calls and then told them, it's just me right now and another person. We're a very small team. I literally said that to every traveler that came to us. Just told them, we're really small. It's a two-person team. If you guys are willing to test this out, we will, not charge you full price, or just be patient with us. And thankfully, our travelers have always been patient. Um, they understood. I think being transparent with your travelers, no, sorry, your customers, your users, being transparent with them goes a long way, because
Hmm.
they're not expecting Instagram. They're not expecting a fully fleshed out platform, but constant communication. And then also um, just being, I had to be 24-hour support. No matter what time our travelers could reach me via text message, email, and I would just fix any bugs that they had or reply to any questions, do a lot of things manually. So I think that helped with them being patient. But yeah, shout outs to our travelers. They're super patient.
That's interesting, and I think again, just that kind of goes against conventional wisdom of you want to put your best foot forward and make it seem like you're a fully functioning, app. We got this figured out, and we're doing great, and everything's great, and we're funded, and we're all this. But then they would have such high expectations for what you deliver, versus
Exactly.
you, so, like being basically a personal concierge. Like I'm in touch with the CEO. If I have any problems, I know who to go to.
Exactly.
um, that's like a white glove service. And you learn so much more by that that thinking that way versus like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna blast everybody with marketing, right? Like, how are you gonna get the app idea out there? We're
And
gonna
then
blast everybody with marketing.
run when all the questions come.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Like I feel like if you're just getting started with an idea and you're just starting to gain traction, you should know the names of all of the users. Like I feel like you have to know their names
yeah,
in order to really understand what to focus on, understanding their questions and stuff.
yeah. And I would go on the trips. I wouldn't go on the trips, but I'd go to the destination that they were at and then just meet them, introduce myself to them. So we would plan these trips for months, and then I would go and introduce myself in person wherever they were, and also understood what it was like for them. Like I went above and beyond and became like their person out there. So I didn't leave it up to the villa host to do it. I actually went out there and was the person that answered all the questions or helped with things that, if something was broken in the house, they would let me know. So that also helped me understand not only what the process like before, but also what it's like for them during the trip. Um,
Right.
just always being for your users.
Like, and how many founders are going, like, if you're not really serious about what you're building, Are you going to travel halfway around the world to experience what your customers are experiencing? You know what I mean? Like, that's a level of dedication that I don't think most people realize they need when they start a project. You know,
Yeah.
like, you are that is above and beyond. Like,
I'm obsessed, I guess. I don't know. I just want to get it right. I really do.
all right, Maryssa, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to see which direction you take Travel Trunk. I've already seen, you know, so many like the changes that you've made just to focus on villas now. And just it seems like you know more about this problem than anybody else does in the whole world, which is crazy, right? No one else is focusing on this specific thing, which I think is a real cool spot to be in.
Thanks. Yeah, it's fun.
All
And we
right.
travel, right?
Yeah. All right. We'll be in touch. I'm sure I'll ask you to come back on and share your next milestone or whenever whenever you want to jump on. I'm happy to talk to you.
I'd love to. Thanks for having me again. This was fun.
All right. Cool. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye.